g'day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for checking in for another case study today, Sunday the 4th of March. I hope you enjoy it. Look, for those of you that are on the first group, I imagine that some of this stuff is starting to sink in a little bit and you can relate a little bit more to what I'm saying. For those of you on the second group, it started in November, and some of you who are just starting just recently, just remember these case studies really are just a sample, just to ease you into some of the thinking behind the work that I do. A lot of it isn't going to make sense to you guys that are on the second group so much. So, but just stick with it. And I think I mentioned it before. As we go through more and more, you're going to start picking up on some of these patterns of thinking and picking up on some of the the reasons behind what I do, why I do what I do. Okay, and some of the stuff you're starting to learn in the in the theory side of things will start falling into place. So sit back, relax, just let it sink in, and in time it's going to start making a lot more sense. Okay, I find it makes it a lot easier to have these live case studies to really sort of see how this stuff is implemented, because it's something that, especially when you're first starting to learn the program, a little bit hard to get your head around. Okay, just a quick usual legal stuff there. If you guys don't agree with that, obviously you would need to let me know. Okay, it's an anonymous case study, blood type unknown. Just one of these things with the blood type. If you can, I really recommend you do get your blood type checked. Okay, it's a simple test. You can even buy the testing kits in some chemist, I think, but it's really worth doing, really worth checking, because when we start getting down to the nitty gritty, especially when it comes to diet, quite often there's quite a strong correlation with blood types, and this is something that you can research yourself and check through. And this is especially true if you're an A blood type. I've seen very strong correlations with A's and the blood type diet and some of the issues with A. So look, if you can, or if you have clients, if you can get them to give you their blood type, get their blood type done, it really can help. Okay, so 6 out of 10 wellness score, a well-being score, not too bad. General lack of energy for a long time, struggling to get anywhere with building health. Body seems to be slowly breaking down, or slowly going downhill very slowly. And this client, she was, she talked about the fact that she just seems to be breaking down and not building up. Now, what is the first thing I think when I hear this, when I see this? The first thing that I would start to think when we start to see these sorts of symptoms. All right, would I be looking at a catabolic? Okay, almost certain. When I talk to a catabolic typically is someone that's, would talk to you, and they'd explain it in such a way that they would say, my life is, it feels like my life energy is slowly leaving me. I'm not rebuilding. I'm breaking down. It doesn't seem to be getting any better. Okay, and it's just a slow ongoing process. When you hear those sorts of words, you're really typically looking at a catabolic, and as we go through this, this person is quite catabolic. But so from the very beginning, when we start looking, we start asking questions, we're starting to get some clues as to what's going on. And a catabolic breaks down, and a catabolic can't build up, whereas an anabolic is completely the opposite. They can't let go, they're holding on, and they're in this constant, more of a rest and digest mode than anything else, which is completely different. So, but the clues can often be found in just asking some of the right questions in the first place. Okay, let's have a look at this person's blood. Okay, as most of you are aware, the top left is an ideal blood sample, and any variations can tell us a little bit different what's going on. All right, well, just with these first 3 pictures, we can certainly tell a story. For those of you that have seen these bloods a few times would recognize straight away the dark center. If you look at number 1, number 2, you can see a distinct dark center, and whenever we see dark center, it's always gut issues. All right, it's dysbiosis, it's toxic gut. Sounds pretty bad, it's pretty common, but it's we know we've got a crook gut. Okay, and when we've got a crook gut, we're probably going to be harboring the environment where the baddies are going to come out to play, microbes, parasites, and bad bacteria and whatnot. And as you can see on number 1, you can see these little dark blotches around the sample, and on number 2 you can see signs of parasites, those little black markers. So this person definitely has some gut dysbiosis, and this person also has some parasites. You're going to expect to see them together. Now, one other thing that you'll often expect to see when you see someone with parasites. What is the biological waste for parasites? It's ammonia. And I talk about ammonia quite a lot. Ammonia causes quite a bit of havoc in the body if the body can't get rid of it, or if it's too much in the system, which it will be when you have when you have parasites. It does a few things. It thickens the blood, so it makes it more viscous. Okay, now we have a cardiovascular system that is pumping around blood at the viscosity of crude oil, as opposed to red wine, which is what it should be. So it puts a lot of strain on the cardiovascular system, and when that happens, often we will see signs of that in the blood, in the dry blood. And as it turns out, we do. If you look at number 2, you can see these darker red areas. There's one here, I'm circling it, there's another one over here. If we go up to number 1, there's a couple of markers, dark markers there, one up here, one here, the darker red areas. The darker red, because they're sort of a little bit 3D, they're a little bit raised. That is typical markers of someone with a little bit of cardiovascular stress. Okay, and when we say cardiovascular stress, we're not talking about someone that's at risk of having a heart attack. We're talking really at someone that's cardiovascular system is working, it's under stress, it's working harder than it needs to do. And this person will typically have a lot of fatigue. Okay, and they can't work out why they have so much fatigue. You know, they're, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm eating the right foods, and why have I got so much fatigue? Well, you have so much fatigue because you're pumping around so much viscous blood, and you're not even realizing it, because your blood's, obviously your heart's a very strong muscle, and it uses up an enormous amount of energy. These people typically will wake up in the morning and not feel rested. Brain fog is another marker. Hearing the blood pulse through your ears as you rest your head on the pillow at night is another one, because you get the thicker blood. It sort of makes a little bit more of a dent in the pillow, if you like. But they're all signs of cardiovascular stress, and in this context, when I see it alongside the dysbiosis and parasites, it's sort of a no-brainer. All right, we know we're probably going to have some parasites, some ammonia too. Ammonia is also very toxic, and it causes all sorts of issues. It really messes with the very finite electromagnetic properties of your bloodstream and your body, and it really can cause some really quite weird symptoms that you really just can't put your finger on. Okay, the other thing too, number 1, you can see, if you look at the top left, you can see those dark lines. This is a protein called fibrin. So when we have a body that's full of protein, got a really good level of protein, we'll see these good thick coagulated blood here. You'll see these lines in between, and you see on number 1 and number 2 that it's quite lacking. All right, so that we know straight away that we're going to be lacking in protein. Now, do we need to be a rocket science to work that out? Once we start to understand we've got some dysbiosis, we have some parasites, we have cardiovascular stress, well, the odds are we're going to have some digestive issues as well, aren't we? And we're going to have problems getting protein, we're going to have problems getting the building blocks to life, and this person is slowly breaking away, slowly starting to lose their health over a period of time. So we don't even have the core building blocks in the first place, even if we had the rest of the mechanisms and the mechanics in place to use protein. Okay, so we might be bringing it in, but we're not actually assimilating it. Okay, what else can we see on this picture? On number 1, you can start to see some little white lines. Okay, they're sort of following along those fibrin lines. It's a little bit hard to tell, but I imagine what this is telling me, because there's another one out here, sort of the very beginning of what we call calcium spokes, and it's when we start seeing these lines come out from the middle all around. It's starting to happen here. Yeah, calcium, we call them calcium spokes. It's when the body is stealing calcium from the bones to try and balance minerals, trying to balance pH, buffer pH, whatever in the bloodstream. And that's a good sign that this person has been suffering digestive issues for quite a while. They haven't been bringing in minerals, or they've been bringing them into the body, but they haven't been assimilating the minerals. Okay, there's a fair bit of that going on, for sure, and it's long term. Okay, and being a female, obviously we've got to be more careful. We've got to be really careful of this because obviously we don't want to, grow old and have all our bones crumble because we've stolen all the calcium from the bones because we've been running our bloodstream too out of whack for too long. Okay, that's what's happened here. Number 3, you can see this dark area. That's usually a sign of tissue breakdown, quite severe tissue breakdown. Okay, quite often, and that can be another sign of catabolic. Catabolic is breaking down, remember? Anabolic is building up. Catabolic, breaking down. So we're going to see some signs of breaking down, and that's a good sign of number 3. Okay, what else can we see? Not a lot else on these 3. We'll go down to the next couple here. You can see once again, you can see the peppering. Look at number 7. You can see the peppering of parasites here, the dark blotches. You can see the darker center. It's you can't miss that. Number 5 is a close-up of the previous picture we looked at just now, I think, and you can see those sort of veins of white as signs. Not only that you've probably been drawing minerals from the bones for too long, but there's also probably just a little bit showing here of lymphatics as well, some lymphatic congestion, which will probably make sense with when we've got an imbalanced body, we've got a gut issues, we're going to have all these things going on. The odds are that the lymphatic system's going to be a little bit stressed as well. Okay. Number 4, you can see a couple of the darker red areas. They're black. They're really dark, quite dark black actually. But they're another couple of markers of the cardiovascular stress. And number 6, you can see the 3 markers of cardiovascular stress. The darker area, and you can also see a peppering of little white spots. Well, there's a few. There's some really small white spots, and when we see those, they're all about the same size. They look like pepper, small grains of pepper. This is where the body's sensitive to something. There's either allergies to something. It could be cat hair. It could be something that person eats. We don't have the specifics on this, but it's there's something going on there. And the darker areas, the larger white blots, probably they're pretty consistent. A little bit of adrenal fatigue. Okay, and remembering this is not a diagnostic tool. We've got to start putting these things together. We've got to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together and not just jump on conclusions. But does it make sense that a person that is struggling with the gut, struggling with digestion, struggling with a catabolic imbalance, does it make sense that that person is probably having a little bit of adrenal fatigue? Because it's adrenal to trying to take up the slack. Okay, and if it's been going on for a long time, they probably put quite a bit of stress on the adrenals. Alright, so it's coming through quite strong here. Number 4 too, there's probably, I'm circling a little spot there, that's probably a liver spot. There's probably a couple of liver spots. They're a little bit hard to pick, they're not coming through quite clear here, but they're little white round circles with a black halo. There's a little bit of that going on. And do I need to see this to be able to understand that the liver is under stress? Of course not. Let's just go back. If we've got a person that's running a little bit catabolic, a little bit breaking down, what is catabolic anyway? It's a cell membrane imbalance. Okay, what are cell membranes made out of? They're made out of lipids, fats. How do we get our fats? Well, we've got to bring them into the body, of course, but we've got to be able to digest and emulsify and bring and assimilate these fats, and that's all down to the gallbladder. Okay, so we know we're going to have some gallbladder issues, and if we have gallbladder issues, of course we're going to have some congestion in the liver. Okay, because it's the liver that dumps its gunk into the gallbladder. That's how it gets rid of its toxic waste. If the gallbladder is sluggish and slow, well, we're going to have problems there, aren't we? Okay, so at this point we can make this assumption. All right, and at this point, when we look at the dry bloods, sometimes, especially with this person here, we can almost tell enough just by the bloods on their own without looking at any other testing. We know we've got to work on the gut. We know we've got to get rid of the parasites. We know we've got to fix up digestion so we get protein and the minerals. We know we've got to try and get rid of some of the ammonia so we can take the stress off the heart. If we start doing that with this person, well, we're going to start building health straight away, and we're going to be already on top of it without even going any deeper into looking at some of what the other imbalances are. Okay, so sometimes, it can be as clear as that. Sometimes we look at bloods and it's not as clear. It doesn't show through everything that's going on, and there might be stuff going on here that we're not picking up. It doesn't matter, but as you can see, often it can be quite telling. Okay, let's go and have a look at this person's imbalance guide, the top level. You don't have to worry about the detail here. And what have we got here? We've got a person, as we can see, this is laid out from 1 to 5, and then you've got digestion. Well, look at digestion to start with. Okay, burping, bloating, passing gas, light coloured stool, gallbladder isn't working, stomach acid isn't working, digestion just isn't working, and that's where the core of these issues lay. And what happens when we have issues with digestion? If we look up to the top, we can see the catabolic side of things that are quite a lot of red boxes highlighted there. Okay, so this person is quite catabolic, a bit of a slow oxidizer. You can see, well, we'll go into detail in a minute, but digestion. So this is sort of just an overview. When I see this, I'm expecting to see this. I'm expecting to see catabolic. When I see catabolic, typically I see someone a little bit parasympathetic as well, and this person is parasympathetic, and definitely with digestive issues. If we come down a little bit closer, you can start to see, look, the blood pressure is quite high, being 150. Okay, and yet we've got vertigo, we've got fatigue, we've got cramps, as if we're struggling for minerals. So where does this blood pressure come from? Well, it could be a blood pressure that's just a little bit errant, it's a little bit out. Blood pressures do move around a little bit. It doesn't make that much sense to be that high, but when I see that, what I'm looking at really is a congested system. Okay, and if we've got a catabolic person breaking down full on, and we've got liver issues, we've got gallbladder issues, we're going to have a congested system. Okay, we're probably going to have high levels of protein, high levels of crap, undigested minerals. We're going to have high levels of sugars in the bloodstream. These things are all going to be increasing the blood pressure. Okay, so there's a bit of congestion going on there, and I believe that's what's going on here with the blood pressure here being quite high. And that blood pressure, I'd expect it to come down. If it doesn't come down, well, it will. It's just a process, and I mean, we have to go through the process of implementing the protocol and whatnot. We will talk about in a minute. But more often than not, you'll see that come down pretty quick once they start focusing on a little bit more on what they're eating, what they're drinking, and start to do some of these, follow some of this protocol, which is really designed to help give them a good clean out and start to clear some of this congestion. Okay, catabolic is very prominent there. Okay, there's probably no doubt whatsoever. You can see with a catabolic person as well. One thing to look at, if you're looking at consistent pHs that are very far apart, and 5.75 and 7.25 are very far apart, you can almost guarantee it's going to be a catabolic person. All right. The closer they get together, say there's only 1 point, say it was 5.7 and 6.7, that's probably pretty well balanced. But as they come closer, say a 5.7 and a 6.2, or a 5.8 and a 6 or whatever, we start to move into when the person's more anabolic. Okay, so the pH is far apart, more catabolic, more closer together, more anabolic. But remember, this is something you want to see over a period of time, and we want to test for that. We've only done a one-off, of course, with this person, and it's a matter of just continually to test and just to see how those pHs move. And you'll notice as the catabolic imbalance starts to improve, you'll see those pHs come together. Okay, so it's a good marker to look at. It's simple. You don't have to do much analysis. You can just say, you know what, my pHs are starting to come together. My urine is coming up and my saliva is coming down, and they're coming a little bit closer. That's a massive signal or sign or indication to say that whatever you're doing, you're doing the right things. Your body's starting to come into some normal ranges. Okay? Okay. A catabolic person's always going to have loose stools, going to wake easy, they're not going to sleep very well. There's no insomnia going on here, but I'd say at the cellular level there's really no rest going on. Slow to heal migraines are a pretty big one. Okay, and we come down to the energy production. There's a bit of stuff going on here. The breath rate is very low, 12. It's not very low, but it's quite low. It should be up around 15, 16, which tells me that the body's trying to hold on to acid in the bloodstream. Why? Because there's a little bit too much alkalinity there, and a lot of that is probably going to be caused by sugars. They're not 97.2 isn't extremely high, but it's high, and it's probably high enough. It's very very close to the mark that I would call high. So sugars being a little bit high. When sugars are high, sugars attract the calcium from the tissues into the bloodstream, and pure calcium being the most alkaline substance on this planet, obviously alkalizes the bloodstream. And this is where the 12th breath rate comes in. All right, the body slowing down breathing so it holds on to as much CO2 as it can. Remember, the CO2 is what the body uses to be able to buffer on a second-to-second basis through your breath rate the pH and keep the pH of the blood balanced. Okay, so if you've got a slow breath rate, your body wants to hold on to acid. If you have a fast breath rate, your body wants to exhale and get rid of acid. So a fast breath rate is someone that's acidic, right? And you pick these acidic manic people that are out of control. They'll be very very acidic. They're breathing very very fastly. They're panicking. Everything's going on. These people they've got a high breath rate, and they're probably really quite catabolic, okay? And they're producing too much acid that the body needs to get rid of, which is why it increases the breathing. And we come over here to the autonomic nervous system. Look, I've picked a parasympathetic imbalance. The allergies are typically parasympathetic, fingertips colder and whatnot have been another quite strong marker. Interestingly, the pulse pressure, 83, is massive. This is why, that needs to be, above 37 and below 46. This is the difference between systolic and diastolic. It's an abnormal reading, and I expect as further readings are done, you'll see these come a little bit back into normal. Okay, we don't just look at one of these readings and go like, oh wow, jump on that. Nothing else makes a whole lot of sense, so that's a real problem. It's just a sign of congested system. All right, and we've got to make those calls when we're looking. If we're doing this we're doing a consult and we're doing some testing of another client. You need to make sure that when we're going through this, you think through this. All right, we don't just get a printout and say, well, we've got a catabolic, a fat burning, a parasympathetic, and just take that from the report. We need to go through it. We need to talk through it. We need to make sure it makes sense to us and we make sense to the client. Which is why when I do my consults, I talk every client through each step of the way, each step of these testing, so that by the time we get through it, we make sure that what we're looking at makes sense. It makes sense to the client, it makes sense to me, it makes sense in the context of all the testing, and it sort of gives us a little bit more confidence that what we're talking, we know what we're talking about, and we've got a pretty good handle on what's going on. Okay, then we come down to a little bit too far there, the acid-alkaline balance. Now, remembering, this is just an indication. I do very little with the acid-alkaline balance in regards to it being an imbalance. It's the tail of the biological dog. Okay, and the biological dog is the electrolytes, the cell membranes, and the energy production. Okay. If these systems aren't in balance, well, your pHs are never going to be in balance. All right, so we look at it, but we don't take too much notice. And then we have a look at digestion, and obviously we can see what's going on there. Burping and bloating, not enough hydrochloric acid, passing gas. This is bile, gallbladder, reflux, not enough hydrochloric acid, light-coloured stool. This is gallbladder. Okay, bile is very dark. It's what makes our poo dark. Okay, so when we have light coloured stool, it's a very good sign that we're not producing much bile. Okay, so stomach acid, bile, diarrhea, well, that's more to do with the catabolic imbalance more than anything else. So the foods making you nauseous is going to be liver, it's going to be gallbladder, liver, gallbladder. Whenever you get someone saying, when I wake up in the morning, I just don't feel hungry, I never eat breakfast, that's because, the first thing I look at there is liver, gallbladder, and digestion. That person isn't digesting properly. They've still woken up in the next day and they still haven't digested properly. They're feeling a little bit, a little bit yuck. The whole system's sort of congested with crap. They haven't digested everything. Okay, but liver gallbladder. When people start talking about feeling nauseous, especially in the morning, undigested food in the stool, well, that's another no-brainer for stomach acid. Not only stomach acid, but the fact that the whole of the digestive process isn't working. Okay, so rarely do I not see these markers when I'm doing this testing. Okay, this is why we always get back to digestion. Digestion is, well, gut and digestion is really the basis of what we're doing here. And then the imbalances. Of course, it's no good just working on digestion if we're not also looking at the fact that, and building gut health, if we're not looking at the fact that we have a catabolic or an anabolic imbalance. If we don't, well, then it's pretty straightforward. But if we do, well, that's what we've got to address that at the same time. We've got to address the cell membranes. We've got to address the energy production. We've got to address the body being able to hold on to minerals. Otherwise, when we do start digesting properly, what's the body going to be able to do? It's not going to be able to do much with it anyway. Okay, so this is why we need to do everything at the same time. Alright, but it really gets back to digestion and gut health as a beginning. And we're always going to see this because this is where these problems come from in the long term. And it might be through bad lifestyle, bad diet, whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's compromised digestion. And then digestion has compromised everything else because things start falling down because we don't have the mineral levels, or we're not assimilating fats, and you start to see how things start to go pear-shaped. Okay. Now, what are we looking at here? So, from the very beginning, as I mentioned this a lot of times when I'm talking about this, ground from the very top item down, it's like a hierarchy. Okay, so without grounding, filtered water, adding some borax and getting some good stuff into you, you're not going to be laying the foundation for some of these other things to work. Okay, so grounding, earthing, an important aspect of any sort of healing protocol, and it's something that not a lot of people do, but more and more people, as they get their head around it, are starting to do. And it's something that's, this is just, when we're talking about grounding, and we're talking about being able to uptake all these electrons from the earth and the surface of the earth, which is covered in electrons. This is no different than eating a load of greens or taking antioxidants. Okay, you're bringing in free electrons into the body, and the body is using those free electrons to try and help balance itself out a little bit. Okay, especially balance out. It's very finite, subtle, sensitive electromagnetic properties of blood and everything else. It really needs to, when we start to get to the point where we're becoming insulated human beings and not doing grounding, this is when we start to get these blockages. Okay, we have the electrical blockages, we get things that just can't pass through, messages can't be sent, and everything goes wrong. This is why grounding can be so powerful. Okay, it's not only just for the antioxidants, but it's really about stabilizing and getting some robustness in the electromagnetic properties of the body, because we're electrical chemical people. Okay, we're nothing but a bag of electricity and chemistry. So anything that's going to affect chemistry and affect electrical circuits are going to be a problem. Okay, and obviously being insulated is going to have an effect on our electrical properties. All right, then we come down to filtered water. This is a big one, of course. Okay, what have we got here? Okay, filtered water. I would have asked this person to drink some distilled water for a little while. It's one of the things I do when I have a high blood pressure, and I'm not really sure that the body's really congested. One of the things we can start doing right up front for the first few days is to start taking some distilled water, which doesn't have any minerals in, of course, and it's sort of like flushing out the dirty fish water tank. Okay, and quite often you can see blood pressure drop pretty quick. You don't want to do that for too long, but it's something you can try when you've got the high blood pressure. It's something you can just try for a few days, and just to see How did the blood pressure go? Okay, borax. I recommend borax to everyone. I don't know if I need to repeat why. This is all about, minerals is all about, borax is all about, being able to help with inflammation, being able to help the body hold on to minerals. It's good for bone. It's critical for bone health. Especially this person needs some help with bone health because they've been drawing minerals from the bone for quite long. It's good for holding on to help the cells actually hold on to magnesium. It's a systemic mineral that's needed for the body to work. Okay. Stabilized rice bran. Look, this is something that there's a little bit of controversy about the rice bran because of the arsenic and whatnot. Look, there's nothing that it's so insignificant. It's not funny. I don't have a problem with that. It's something I've started to offer to recommend some people depending on what's going on, what they're doing. And every now and then I'll just whack in some stabilized rice bran. It's probably something I'm going to make a little bit more common. Adrenal cocktail, which is a PDF I send to the client to explain what the PDF adrenal cocktail is. Most of you are going to be aware of what the adrenal cocktail is. It's just some cream of tartar, some vitamin C, and some good salt, and it's really aimed at just helping, just give the adrenals just a little bit of support more than anything. You're not going to fix anything with the adrenal cocktail. It may do nothing for you, but it's something you can just do. You do for a while. You say, you know what, it's helping me. It's just helping out a little bit, and anything that's going to help out a little bit is going to be good for me. Some good salt, of course. Now, when I talk to the clients, of course, we talk about this in the context of taking the distilled water and having the high blood pressure. But even everybody should be taking between 1 and 2 teaspoons of good salt a day. All right, not table salt. That's bad and it's going to kill you. Okay. Then we come down to looking at the gut. So we've got the parasite cleanse, the probiotics, and the ornithine alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, the parasite cleanse, but that's no brainer. The person needs a parasite cleanse. What do we do when we take out the baddies? We need to put back in the goodies. So once we start clearing the gut and we start clearing the crap out, make sure that we're adding some good stuff back in. All right, some probiotics. Now I did used to recommend pre-script assist, and this is from an older session assessment. What I am recommending now is the Synthol AMD, which is the Advanced Microbe Defense. I think that's what the AMD stands for. I really like that stuff, and to be able to do a parasite cleanse alongside the Synthol, I'm seeing some really good results. So that would be a change there. The alpha ketoglutarate, this is to mop up the ammonia. Okay, so once we start, even before we start cleaning the parasites out of the system, we're going to have high ammonias anyway. But once we start clearing out and start killing off the parasites, you're going to see a lot more ammonia created, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people get some bad effects and die off. Okay, more than anything, it's a high levels of ammonia, and if you're not taking something like this ornithine alpha ketoglutarate, or alpha ketoglutarate on its own will do the same job, you're going to run into problem. Okay, so this supplement really helps the body clear up the ammonia. And when that starts happening, often in the second day you start taking this stuff, you'll start noticing some difference, especially if you're taking it a little bit away from doing the cleanse. Because sometimes I'll get people to take this on its own. They haven't got parasites, they've just got high ammonias due to poor protein digestion or other issues. You can often feel the difference within 2 days. It's crazy how the difference it can make sometimes, especially with clearing brain fog and just helping it to get some clarity in the mind and clarity in thinking and clarity in the body. Just having that clarity, that cleanliness feeling, because the ammonia just makes you feel dirty, it makes you feel cluttered, it makes you feel congested, it makes you feel weird. Okay, so really, really important. Don't do a parasite cleanse without making sure you're taking some alpha ketoglutarate or some ornithine alpha ketoglutarate. Magnesium chloride oil. Okay, magnesium chloride, depending on what's going on. I like chloride. This person is struggling with hydrochloric acid, so the chloride's going to help there. build hydrochloric acid. This person is also struggling with breath rate. We need to try to bring the breath rate up. So the chloride will also do that. It'll help increase breath rate just a little bit. Okay, and not only that, the magnesium chloride oil is just a great oil. It's easy to apply. It bypasses the shocking digestive system, which is struggling to assimilate and break down and assimilate anything. Well, then why don't we just wax them on the skin? And I find this to work quite well, especially when we're trying to build back up magnesium levels, which can take time. Okay, you can't just start taking magnesium and suddenly your level, it can take months and months and months and months, for some people years, for these levels to start building back up. You can't force it into your body. You know, you can't just say, well, I'm going to take 10 capsules of magnesium, malate or whatever, every day, and I'm going to replenish myself. Of course, it's about making sure that we have a body that's conducive to having a system that's conducive to using this stuff and being able to know what to do with it, and to be able to move it where it needs to move, and to be able to stimulate it to where it needs to be stimulated. For that, it needs to have pathways. It needs to have clear pathways. And when we have a congested liver, a congested gallbladder, congested system, and no doubt a congested blood system, well, we're not going to be helping that matter very well, are we? Okay, so let's get it clear out. All right, so magnesium chloride, D-limonene, no brainer. I recommend that to everybody. Most people are going to have some level of gallstones. Do we want to do a gallbladder flush and risk blocking up the pancreatic duct? Because remember, where the little gallstones come out of the bile duct, it comes out exactly opposite the pancreatic duct. And a lot of the issues with pancreas is caused by gallstones coming out of the bile duct and lodging into the pancreatic duct and blocking the release of enzymes from the pancreas. And we all know what happens then. We sort of start to run into problems if you've got enzymes that aren't being released from the pancreas, have nowhere to go. What do? They start to the pancreas starts digesting itself. Okay, so I'm a big pusher for whenever we do any of this work. I'm not a great, let's do some harsh cleanses. Sometimes people need that. When we use MSM to work on cleansing the liver, it's even the MSM is can be quite harsh for some people. Okay, I like to do things subtly. When we have interventions, remember we've got a body that's already out of balance. The body is already struggling for robustness. It's struggling for stability. Okay, and we go and try and fix it, and the last thing we want to do is to try and push that pendulum any further than it needs to go, because it's like a pendulum, these systems. It takes time for them to start slowing down and come into balance again. Alright, so if we suddenly do a harsh gallbladder cleanse, and then we risk pushing other things and other systems out of balance when the body's already struggling. So it's just a personal preference. There are plenty of people that do cleanses and quite successfully, but my philosophy is to do it as calmly as you can. And like I explained, when we work on the body, we try and do it without the body knowing what we're doing. Alright, if the body knows what we're doing, the odds are it's going to react. But if we can do things, we sneak things in without really thinking too much. Alright, it doesn't react. So we want to do it at that level that the body doesn't react. The body doesn't know what's going on. Alright, that's one way of looking at it. Okay, then we come down to the catabolic. Well, this is because this person's got quite a strong catabolic imbalance. This is an Empirical Labs product designed specifically for the catabolic imbalance. Okay, so it's got a lot of goodies in there to help push those membranes closed and to help push that body back into the catabolic morning and the anabolic at night, and trying to switch that body over into the anabolic stage so that it can actually start rebuilding and utilizing some of the resources that it's gathered through the day and start rebuilding, replenishing, and getting that body basically back to where it was the day before when it wakes up in the morning. Okay, the HCL's Digestezyme Beat Flow, no brainer again. Alright, the stomach acid, the Digestezyme, because the digestive enzymes will be in trouble for sure. The liver's congested. The liver is responsible for a lot of these enzymes. So you're going to have a lot of issues with enzymes. So the Digestezyme and the beet flow to thin the bile and really work on the liver detoxification as well on another quite a calm, subtle level. All right. So these three products, the HCL Digesterzyme Beet Flow on their own, are the most powerful trio, if you like, of digestive package that I've or punch, if you like, that I've ever used. I've seen amazing turnarounds from people who do little more than take these three products, okay? Because all of a sudden we're starting to break down the food. All of a sudden we're starting to digest properly. We're starting to get our fats. Our liver and our gallbladder starts working properly, and we start to get our membranes start clearing up. We're actually getting the breakdown and the assimilation of the minerals. We're getting the right pHs in the digestive tract where they need to be. Okay, they're all different, and they need to be at certain pHs at certain time. When we don't have the acid, and we don't have the beet flow, and the bile flow, which is very alkaline, and obviously the stomach acid is very acid. There's a combination there that needs to go, and the pancreatic enzymes, which are also very alkaline. Without those three working together properly, we know we're going to have some imbalances of pH, and we have some imbalances of pH, we're going to have problems with assimilating minerals. Remember, minerals are attracted into the body through electromagnetism. Okay, they don't just suddenly gravitate to the walls of the intestines. They're drawn through electromagnetic forces. And what has a direct effect on the ability of these electromagnetic forces? The pH. A direct impact. So if the pH changes, you're going to change that attraction, that magnetic force, the ability to be able to assimilate these minerals. Okay, which is why when we go too far away from 6.4 as an average body pH, we start running into problems of picking up heavy minerals like iodine and iron, for instance. Our body's going to struggle to pick it up because we don't have enough magnetism to do it. All right, the magnetism has been altered too much because of the pH. So those three together. And then we have the L-glutamine. Look, L-glutamine it's a very anabolic inducing supplement, so we take that in the evening, and it also helps slow things down, and really it helps with the gut, it helps heal the gut, but I use that when we've got some diarrhea going on to try and slow that down. Of course, we can't have a catabolic person struggling to sleep who has digestive problems, can't hold on to minerals, and then they're having diarrhea as well at the same time. So what they do have, they're actually pushing straight back out. So we've got a person struggling here. So we have to intervene with the bowel issues as well. Okay, we're slowing things down. Okay, because the speed in which digestion works is also very critical, and the speed in which digestion works is impacted massively again by pH. If you've got a lot of HCl that isn't being quenched by the gallbladder and the pancreatic enzymes, well, then you're going to have a body with acidic charm that it needs to get out of the body very, very quickly, because otherwise it's going to start digesting the intestines, which are made of protein. And HCl is designed to digest protein, unravel proteins. Okay, so you can see the importance of looking at everything and making sure that what we're doing makes sense. Okay, we can't start pushing someone with diarrhea into a protocol that's going to give them more diarrhea. It's pointless. It's coming in one end and it's going out the other end, and the person's just going to go downhill. Okay, so that's a protocol. That's a protocol to get moving with. This is a protocol to take the first step from the baseline. The baseline is we've done the testing. We have an idea where your body is. Now we're going to intervene. And ideally, and this is something that more and more now I'm getting clients to join my coaching programs, where I take them through this whole process over a 12-month period. We start to track, and we start to, just a little bit like the plane taking off from New York to London. There's no such thing as a straight line. There's corrections along the way all the time. You've got headwinds, side winds, tailwinds, updrafts, downdrafts that are pushing the plane out of track all the time, but it has a mechanism, it has instruments in place to be able to detect when it's come out of line, and it pulls it back in so that it makes sure it actually lands in London as opposed to ends up in Kathmandu. And we're no different with our body. Okay, we can start taking the stuff, but we need to be observant. We need to be tracking ideally and noticing how the body's reacting. so that we notice if the body's reacting in a negative way, that we can react and we can bring the body into line. Okay, so sometimes it's just a matter of people going away and doing some of this stuff, and bang, it kicks back, it kicks in the body, and it's away again. But look, more often than not, it's more of an issue of just working a process. Okay, implementing the protocol, and start being observant and start to getting a little bit more intuitive about how your body's reacting. And ideally, you do my coaching course. Or you do this training so that you can start learning how to track the numbers so that you can see for yourself. Just like the plane, you have a mechanism to be able to give you some feedback to say, ooh, you're heading off track. We need to make a correction. That isn't working. Okay? Because not everything we're going to be doing is going to work straight away. But what's more important? The more important thing is we try something, we have an idea where we're at, but we need to, if we make a mistake, we need to know we've made a mistake. Okay, if we're heading down the wrong track, we need to know, the sooner the better. As opposed to typically going to see a practitioner or a naturopath or whatever, go away, take some stuff, go back 6 weeks later and being told that, well, they haven't worked for you, oh, let's try something else. We're already 6 weeks behind. Okay, so through this tracking and through this follow-up and keeping an eye on what's going on, you're not having this time lag between things going wrong and understanding when things are going wrong. That's why it's so important, and this is why so many people are in so much trouble, because they're not doing that. They have no idea where they're at. They have no idea if what they're doing is working for them. It may have worked for them at one point, and they're still doing it because it did work for them at one point, and well, I'll still keep doing it because it must be working. And no idea if things are working or not working for them, and therefore they're just running around in circles. And this is where most people are with their health. Okay, we need to get a little bit more clever and a little bit more analytical, and start understanding that there are things that we can monitor, there are things that we can track that can give us an indication as to where we're at. Just a couple of other comments there. Saliva stringing down, a sign that you may have candida overgrowth in the spit test. And one thing with the Synthol AMD, look, if there's a bit of candida going on, and they're probably, certainly in a person with a body like this, you're probably going to have a bit of that going on anyway. The Synthol AMD seems to do quite a good job of helping clear that up, as well as a lot of other good things. Okay. And you can see I've made a comment there before you start any supplements or any other minerals, to start drinking some distilled water for a few days and to see if that systolic drops. Okay, so we make sure we make those comments, make sure that we notify, make sure we have some sort of check in place, if you like, as opposed to, well, here you go, see you later, just go for it and good luck. Okay, we're talking about the congestion there, which I talked about before, and start at the top of the list and work down. We need to build a foundation. Right? I talk about that all the time. As you can see, the most important things, we're building the foundation from the ground up, literally from the grounding up. Okay, what's the point of adding digestive enzymes if we don't have enough fluid, enough water in our system to be able to transport these minerals to the cells? Okay, what's the point of doing any of this stuff if we don't have enough fluid in the system to be able to transport toxins out of the cells and out of the body? What's the point of doing any of this stuff? There is no point, which is why we need to make sure we build this foundation and we build it up from there. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Well, that was a pretty interesting case study. I hope you got something out of that. I'm sure some of you would. Remembering, as we go through these case studies, there might only be one or two things that come up that sort of flag something in your mind, but that's okay. The more that you do this, the more that you see, the more connections you see me make, you'll start thinking a little bit like this. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of time. But look, thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I see as many of you as I can next week for our Q&A, when we can discuss any questions related to, well, anything really, but related to the Q&A and related to the other lessons that are being released today. Okay guys, thanks very much. We'll talk to you all very, very soon. Bye bye.